Hello and welcome to our DevOps transformation story. I'm David Rizzo, Vice President of Product Engineering, and joining me today is David Kennedy, Solutions Architect. And we're going to share with you some information about Z-Advisor, a great product that CompuWare has to offer. As we move through our presentation, you'll see who is presenting today, myself, David, and David, so it's easy to remember who is who. So as we get into our presentation today and talk about what is driving transformation, what is needed for DevOps, and the first thing we have to do when we talk about doing a DevOps transformation and moving an organization forward is identifying what the problem is that we're trying to solve. Without having a clear idea of what it is that we need to solve, we can't really do anything. So when I talk about CompuWare and what we've done in our DevOps transformation and procedures that we've gone through, we identified our problem about 6 years ago that we weren't innovative enough, we weren't creating enough, and we weren't doing enough to be what we wanted to be in the industry, and that is a leader in mainframe innovation. We took that very seriously, and we initiated our DevOps transformation. And what we did to initiate that is took a very bold approach, and that is to burn the boats. As we move to the next slide, you'll see the best approach to win is you have to burn the boats. You have to take that initiative to start from scratch and say, this is what we need to do. What we did is took our approach of doing 100% agile transformation. We picked a date that we were going to be organization, and we set our date, and we all went forward as an entire organization to meet that objective and to move us forward. And what is the need for that? As we move to the next slide, you'll see a great quote from Mark Twain. Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. As we talk about continuously improving, that's a goal that we have had and we continue to have. Every day getting better, every day looking at ways that we can improve as an organization, that we can improve our processes and we can improve what we are doing and getting better every single day. So as we move to the next slide, you'll see that when you talk about improvement, the way that you improve is by understanding what you're improving, and how to understand what you're improving is using metrics. And it's metrics that are very key to our success, and understanding how our business works and understanding the different things that we want to measure. As has been said and heard many times, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So when you look at thinking about DevOps, thinking about transforming an organization, thinking about moving an organization forward, and whatever you're doing, you have to have measurement, you have to have metrics that truly matter. So what are some of those metrics that we looked at? Some of those things that are important to us and that show business value. So you want to look, for every business, it can be a little bit different. When you're talking about a development organization and how you are looking to improve and be better, as CompuWare did and how we look at ourselves, it's critical to have the right KPIs for a mainframe DevOps perspective. And also, you have to measure the things that matter. And what are the three things that matter? It's quality, efficiency, and velocity. If you have those three things, that's what we say is your key measurements to success. And we say three because you can't have just one. If you focus on quality, you're going to have a products or software that is amazing, but it's going to take you a long time to get there. If you look at velocity and just get as much code out as you can, as fast as you can, you're going to sacrifice quality and you're going to have unhappy end users. And efficiency, focusing on the right things, making sure you're doing what is needed. If you're just writing a lot of code or very fast, or you're focused on just quality or just velocity and not thinking about what's really needed, what do you need for your end users, and what are the things that are important to them. So quality, efficiency, and velocity go together. You have to measure all three. It's like a three-legged stool. If you don't have all three, you're going to be out of balance. So as you look at measuring continuous improvement, as we did, we looked for our three KPIs: innovation, our MTTR, and velocity. Our innovation percent for us is the percent of time that you spend writing code that is new features, new functionality, new enhancements. So the more we spend time writing and working on those new features, the more value we're providing to our end users. Second is MTTR. MTTR is simply the number of calendar days it takes us to resolve an issue from the day it's reported to the day a resolution is provided to an end user. The worst thing that we can do is have a bug in our software, but unfortunately all software has bugs. But the best thing we can do is minimize the impact to the end user and the time that it takes them out and not being able to use all the features of the software that they want. So MTTR is your quality metric and how you're working with your customers. And then velocity, how fast are we going? And we look at how much we're doing. So the numbers you see here for velocity are total number of JIRAs that we have completed in that time frame. So we show here our eight previous quarters, and we look at total number of JIRA issues. JIRA is the tracking system we use to measure all issues that are worked on by our engineering organization. So when you look at the total number of issues that are addressed, you want to make sure that you're doing as much as you can while maintaining the other two. So it gives you that velocity, and that can also be looked at by an individual Scrum team of how they're doing on their velocity and what they can expect, and be able to set expectations for what they can do in a sprint, what they can do over a delivery sequence. And again, for us, we look at, you'll see this is broken down by quarters. We deliver new features, new innovation, product integrations, and updates to all of our classic offerings every quarter. So the first business day of every quarter, you can expect to see something from us on those updates and what's going on. So we measure things in those quarterly increments. How much can we get done in a quarter? How much value can we provide to our end users? And how quickly can we get new things out to meet the demands of the market? And that's what we're focused on, is driving innovation and meeting the demands of the market. So as we move on to our next slide, one of the things that we're going to do now is turn it over to David to talk about this.
All right. Thank you, David. And so as an organization, we needed to find a common language from an engineering perspective and also from a product management perspective. We needed to have a common dashboard, a single pane of glass that was agreed upon by all stakeholders. So over the next few slides, we're going to walk through a couple examples of our dashboards that we use to communicate internally, talking about the definition that everyone's agreed upon, but then also quickly talking about how we make decisions based on the number that we see. And I'll go back to David to have him explain how we use it and how we're driving forward with being more agile, increasing our velocity, increasing efficiency, and how that flow metric actually plays a part in that decision. So here, this is flow velocity, and we have a tile that is broken down at a yearly, quarterly, and monthly level, where we see the total number of JIRAs here. But we've broken that down, and we split that apart into two different buckets: JIRAs that require development and JIRAs that didn't. One of the best ways to increase velocity is identifying waste in the system. From start to finish, where are the items that we shouldn't be working on anymore? So here, about half of those were identified as waste. And then, because of the technology that we have to look at velocity, we want to look at that over time. We need a relative measurement. How good are we doing today compared to how we were yesterday? And then looking forward, right? How can we forecast and predict what type of velocity we're going to get out of the organization? So David, when you see this dashboard and when you log in every day and you look at the full velocity of our engineering organization, what are some of the things that you think about in terms of increasing the velocity or actually keeping it stable?
Sure. So, but something that's key about this dashboard, when I look at it and I see that number that we did not do code changes on, and that is waste in the system. What we want to do is alleviate as much of that waste and move it out of the system and move the number where we're actually doing changes. That's where we impact our end users. That's where we provide value to them. So we're looking to see where we can find opportunities to shift that. And then by shifting those numbers to actually making changes, providing value to the end users, that's going to increase the overall value of our software. And then we can help our development teams become more focused, because this also can be a sign of some thrashing, because there's issues that people are spending time on that aren't being advanced or don't have any work done on them. So it's an opportunity to look and see, are we thrashing, and how can we improve our focus, which again is going to improve the overall velocity of what we're trying to accomplish.
All right, so the next one is mean time to resolution, which you've covered a little bit previously. But in our dashboard that our teams are using, we take that a little bit further. So we can see our mean time to resolution is 56 days on average for all external bugs. So these are issues reported by our customer where they're not getting the most value out of the feature that they're using. Right, we break that down again in terms of the bugs that required a development cycle. We'll talk about the flow cycle and the individual, I would say, micro cycles that are involved in delivering that fix back to our customers here shortly. And then we even go further down to identify how many actually did require development. Again, we want all software has bugs, and we want to fix those as fast as possible. But as we started to use Z-Advisor and starting to look at this over time, we saw within the data that bugs are becoming more complex. So I'll let David allude to that and how we use this to understand how well we are doing at the Agile process, and how well automated testing and the increase of that within our organization has led to some interesting outcomes when we look at the mean time to resolution KPI.
Yeah, exactly, David. And there's a lot when we look at a dashboard and we talk about the numbers on a dashboard. When I showed you the MTTR numbers a little while ago, it's just some simple basic number that we're seeing in days. And this shows for the whole organization. Now we can drill down by product, by team, and we can look and see how that's being affected. But some key takeaways from MTTR is just not simply the days that it takes. The one thing that we noticed as we increased our automated testing, as we put more into finding bugs internally and making sure that we found any issues before the software was released, we found that our MTTR actually went up. So most people would think we'd be concerned when the MTTR goes up. But actually, with the MTTR going up a little bit, we're seeing that it's the complex bugs that are making it out to the field. It's something that may be specific to an individual site, or when it gets to a certain threshold of use, that something occurs that we may not be able to recreate within our internal systems, or that we just haven't created a test case for, which we would do and then automate. But automation and automated testing is key to any transformational success in a development organization. And doing that you should look that it would increase your MTTR, because the number of issues you're finding should go down a bit, but also the time that it takes to fix those will go up a little bit, because they're not easy fixes, if you will. They're not the straightforward fixes that you should have caught with testing. So there's a lot that goes into these numbers. There's a lot that goes into the MTTR and how we're meeting the expectations of our customers and how we're delivering what is needed and what they really want to get, which is focusing on fixing bugs, but also then taking time for that innovation, going back to that. And again, when we have issues that are reported where we didn't make code changes, why is that important to us? Why would we think that that's a significant number? It's because every time a JIRA issue is open from one of our customers, they've had an experience with our product that isn't optimal. So we take each one of those very seriously to look at what can we do. That goes into our usability, that goes into how we design our features, and making the product easier to use and making it more straightforward so that we can eliminate that need for our customers to actually have to get in touch with us and they can focus on their job and use the software as it's intended. And then those fixes, as I said, we'll always have bugs, unfortunately, but those fixes and bugs that we do have may take a little more time, but they're more complex. And that, again, shows that we're doing better with automated testing. We're doing better in the Agile process with the definition of done and making sure that we release defect-free software to the best of our ability. So no known defects are delivered. We do the best that we can, and that's all something that gets bundled up and reflected in our MTTR number.
This next one is really where our development managers really dig in and understand the logistics of our pipeline, our feature and functionality pipeline going out to our customers. And that's flow time. Looking at the length of time from when a customer reported an issue externally to the time that we've fixed that and delivered value back out to the customer that reported it. So we can see that flow time, that total time of 58 days. But what's really important, right, that's a big segment. And what's really important is to break that down into smaller cycles and really understand where the work is happening within the engineering organization. So backlog cycle time, so from when product management has the idea, puts it on the development backlog, it gets refined. How long does it sit there before a developer takes that and starts working on it? And that's the code cycle time. So from start to finish, where the developer starts to formulate the idea, starts to put things together, starts to glue things together to make sure that it's going to work, to when it goes into code review. So now they're going to have a peer look at what they built or what they fixed. On average, it takes about 9 days. After that's been reviewed and accepted, it goes into validation time. How long does our automated testing or still manual testing, because of the complexity or the significance of the change, how long does that take? But being able to break that down into these individual silos is very important to help understand where you potentially have a bottleneck, or you can identify areas of improvement, and even celebrate where you're doing really good. So I'm going to hand it back over to David to get his perspective on how he and his team uses this.
So this is a really great tool for us to understand. Again, if you think about, the drill down, right? We have these macro numbers, and then we want to get to micro numbers to be able to really focus on where can we make an impact? What is it that we can do that will help us become better? Now, what you're looking at here in Z-Advisor, we have the ability to drill down by product, by team, by type of issue. We can look at stories that are being for new enhancements. We can look at customer bugs. We can see the different time segments for any type of issue, and it gives us the ability to look at where are we spending our time. The largest number that we'd like to see is in the coding time, right? That's where we want to spend most of our time because that's what provides the value, and that's where the real work is done. The testing and validation time, we want to continue to decrease that. How do we decrease that? It's done by automated testing. Again, you're going to see correlations between all of these things that now you can see how much time are we spending on testing. Code review. How much time do we spend on code review is an interesting one. Hopefully everyone has somebody look at their code before it goes out. For us at CompuWare, it's a guarantee. Every piece of code that's changed gets reviewed by someone else before it's released. But the sooner that code review is done to when the development is finished, the easier it's going to be to fix, the more fresh in the mind it's going to be. So the quicker and sooner you can connect those pieces, the more efficient you're going to be. So the longer the code review cycle time is taking, then that means the longer it's taking to get feedback. So feedback to the developer, the quicker they get it, the easier it is for them to remember what they did, perhaps why they did it, be able to have a good conversation, and perhaps make changes to the code so that they can make it better and provide a better experience for the end user. So each one of these segments lets us look at how can we improve, because again, having a big number, you want to look and say, how do I take and make smaller numbers so I can decide where I need to invest more in automated testing? Where do I need to perhaps tweak a peer review process where Some teams, and we've done different things at CompuWare, some things where we've done a peer review by putting it on a queue, other it's pre-assigned. It works differently for different teams, but having this metric allows us to be able to make very good decisions and be able to look at, hey, what do we need to do and how can we improve it? And the one on the far left that's in kind of that bright green color, how long does it take to get off the backlog and into a sprint? Or how long does it take to get onto the work of a Kanban team to get work accomplished, as we talk about for us, a customer defect? How much time is it taking for us to get there? We want to look at that, and we expect that number when we look at it broadly at our entire organization. We expect that number to be, somewhere between 40 and 60 days because of our quarterly cadence that I talked about. So the product management is building up those stories, and they're building the epics and the amount of the work that has to be done. So they continue to build that. So it takes a little bit to get done, but that's what we would expect. So you would get a general sense of your cadence and what you would expect those numbers to be. And it allows you to really focus on, where aren't we as efficient as we could be? Where are those opportunities for us to get done? And again, always that waste number of, is there an opportunity for us where we can find issues that we don't need to get into the cycle earlier?
The next one's innovation, and you saw this one previously, but we're going to dive into a little bit around the time series and how to understand the innovation percentage as it does change over time. We see peaks and valleys, which is normal, but being able to visualize this over time is very critical to understand the balance within the organization between working on new features and functionality when in each of our products, but then also making sure that we're taking care of our customer and working on our maintenance backlog. So back to David really quick here to talk about some of the big dips that you see and what causes those.
Yeah, so again, focusing on innovation is key for us, and for any organization. You want to be delivering the most value and putting new features in as we talk about innovation. And when we see dips in new feature, there's always a trade-off. I talk about the quality, the velocity, those trade-offs. When you see dips, what you'll see is a peak where there was a lot of new innovation done, and then kind of a valley where when you're doing a lot of new innovation and you get to that 100% or close to 100% of innovation, you're not focusing on taking care of those defects that you have, because you're always going to have defects. So you always have to pay the piper, as they say. You're going to have to fix those defects. So if you get too much innovation, you're going to get into a cycle where you need to do more bug fixing. So you're not going to be focused on innovation. So that's where there's kind of what we like to say is a little sweet spot, somewhere in the 80 to 90% range, where you're focused on new innovation. If you get higher than that, then you're going to start running into pushing off the other work, and it's going to come back that you're going to have to do that. So your innovation is going to go down, and you're going to get those dips. So a more steady line is what you'd like to see, and that gives you an idea that you're properly balancing, meeting the expectations of your end users for the issues that they're going to run into, and also providing the new innovation that they look forward to seeing. And as we go, and now we've talked about some of the metrics, we've talked about Z-Advisor, but just more concrete about what Z-Advisor is. Z-Advisor is a software package that we provide that allows our users to get these metrics. And this is available to all of our maintenance paying customers at no charge. It's included with the products that they have. And what they can do then is provide the data. How do we get all these great metrics? We get these great metrics from the data. The data comes from, we can look at product usage. So every CompuWare product gathers usage data for how the users are using it. We get a lot from, we talked about Jira. So your defect or your task management system, whether that be ServiceNow, Remedy, Jira, anything that you use, it's very adaptable because it can be consumed into Z-Advisor and you can get those metrics. And then also the other piece of it is your source change management system. So we have ISPW that we use at CompuWare. Our source change management system is a software product that we develop as well. But we also work with things like Endeavor and ChangeMan. That data can be put in so that you can see how people are doing the work, the tasks that they need to do, and how the source is being managed and how changes are being implemented, how deployments are being done. So Z-Advisor allows you to provide those different pieces of data. That data is then put into Z-Advisor using things like machine learning, doing data analysis. Dashboards are available so that you can see how those things are working, and you can get insights into your organization and insights into the different ways that people are working and different opportunities with your organization. And speaking of opportunities in your organization, if you haven't read the Phoenix Project, you should. It's a great book on DevOps, and it tells you a lot about a big key is a bottleneck. And we all have bottlenecks in our organization. So when we talk about Z-Advisor and we talk about getting good metrics and we're talking about looking at those, you can always get a lot of data. The thing you want to look at is, where are the bottlenecks within your organization? What is, from the Phoenix Project, I'll use Brent as the character that was a bottleneck, but in your organization, we all have Brents that are the go-to people that are working on many projects that are the key to success in many different ways. And sometimes we know them and sometimes we don't. So one of the other advantages that we have with Z-Advisor is we look and using the data, there's ways for us to look and find those bottlenecks and find them in different ways. So I'll turn it over to David to give a few examples of those.
All right, thank you, David. So there's a few examples that I'd like to walk through to help drive conversation, or that help drive conversation within CompuWare, and how that help aid in making decisions around new features, new functionality, products, how they're released, how they're developed, and using the Z-Advisor NoSQL architecture, we're able to start to build relationships with between disparate nodes. And so in this first example, what we're doing is profiling the workload of an architect and how diversified an architect is versus not. So here on the left, Michael's an architect, he's my peer. And within a few seconds, Z-Advisor can analyze and understand the products that Michael works on. And so here, he works more than 5 products, but these are the ones that are most significant. So I want to talk about that gray line between each of these nodes, or each of the 5 products he contributes to. So that's the strength of the relationship. So we're looking at the social graph, and this one's actually examining the comments and contribution that Michael makes to JIRAs related to that product. So I know over the past year, we've been enhancing our internal maintenance facility, building out new architectures for continuous integration and continuous delivery, so that we can move from quarterly delivery of our products, new features, new functionality, to daily and on-demand delivery to our customers. And so I know that working with Mike, I know his emphasis with our internal maintenance facility is very strong. He's contributed a lot to it. And so you can see his diversification tree there. But if we double click and we go a little bit deeper and we expand that graph analysis, you can start to see, right, who is Michael working with likely on that product the most, or who is he collaborating with the most. So for the internal maintenance facility I just referenced, that's most likely Pascal in the bottom right. Or if Mike is contributing to Z-Advisor, he's likely working with me in terms of looking at our mainframe and distributed architecture and making sure that we're building in security, performance, efficiency, making sure we have a well-rounded solution. But if we start to ask questions like, what happens if we want to make an integration between Z-Advisor and the internal maintenance facility? That should be sitting at the table talking and discussing the strategy about that integration, that new feature. It'd likely be Michael, myself, and Pascal. Maybe include Bill, the product owner of Z-Advisor, potentially, to make sure that we have a very efficient meeting, a very efficient conversation around the future or any decisions that we make. So using ZAdvisor, you can really analyze the conversation, the social graph between our people, our products, and everything that has to do with work between those nodes. The next example is a graph analysis of our release engineering organization. So here in the middle is Daryl. Daryl's the team lead of release engineering, and you can see how well connected and how evenly connected he is to each of these products. We can dive in on Daryl and actually look at one specific product in terms of ISPW, and who are the individuals that he is most likely working with, having a conversation with, commenting on, resolving issues on, when it comes to our ISPW source control management solution. So if there's an issue that comes up, or if there's a new enhancement or new feature that we want to discuss, right, there's going to be a conversation between Daryl and the 5 individuals that spread out from the ISPW spoke there. So very, very interesting analysis, and from each of these nodes, you can expand even further to see the entire spider web of connections and how our organization works together to bring a product to life from a release engineering perspective. Now to go back, to relate this back to mean time to resolution. So here, we're actually looking at a graph analysis of our source code that ZAdvisor is tracking. So our customers could have reported a bug about one of our products, ECC. This is a shared component that they glues together many of our products, various APIs that our products use to communicate with each other. Maybe a bug is reported and the developer finds out that the bug is within a certain source member. Now we can look at that source member and look at the activity around that source member and who contributed to it the most, or what type of activity has surrounded this source member in terms of the time that a change was made to it being deployed. And so here you can see the user PMI MAM0. It looks like it has the strongest relationship with where that bug was reported from. So you can actually use the graph analysis in ZAdvisor to reduce the time is needed to get the right people to have the right conversation so they can identify the complex issue at hand and resolve that faster and deliver that value back to our customers, again, as fast as possible. Using data, having this insight without it, right, this is a very long process. This has definitely increased decreased our MTTR drastically since we've implemented it. The next one, the next one here is a little bit more complex, but using a graph analysis to look at balance around a certain product. So here on the left, we start with a product and its core source members, the source code that contributes to that product. And we start to connect, what the most important thing is to connect the people. Who are the people creating this product, modifying this product, adapting this product to new requirements from our customers? So we can add the people in to contribute, or that contribute to this project. But it's a little noisy, so we can actually remove some of the friction from the diagram and just look at the relationship between the people and the source. And what we can see here is it's slightly unbalanced. There's individuals at the bottom that contribute to 4 or 5 different source members, and there's individuals at the top that only contribute to 1. So we want to make sure that the team is well-rounded, make sure the team is contributing equally to the source. So if any issue comes up or any enhancement is needed, we can go and talk to anyone within this team, and they have knowledge of the entire application, or in this case, product ecosystem at play. So this really gives us a good picture to validate how our teams are balanced and making sure that we have a high quality organization building our products. So I'm going to go back to David to talk about the problems that remain and get into any questions.
So thank you, David, and that is a great representation to show the value of data and what can be done to really dive into and find different bottlenecks, how you can look at your business, get down to your individuals, look at your source code, you can see everything. And the biggest problem that you have, and that we all seem to have to get to that, is data. Data is what provides us the accurate measurement. I talked about the types of data that can be provided for Z-Advisor, and getting all of those types of data allow you to get and have standardized metrics that can be used to measure your DevOps and measure how you're doing in your development process. Those are the key things that you need, and data is so important. And as with everything, DevOps is about sharing, it's about continuous feedback, it's about continuous improvement. And how you get that is by having the metrics that matter, be able to measure what you need, because you can't improve what you can't measure. So it all goes together, that the more input you get, the better output you're going to get, and the better ability you're going to have. Providing that data, sharing that data is what is going to allow us to improve and get better for all of us in general, and be able for our individual organizations. And with that, that's what we have to share on how we use Z-Advisor, what we talk about, the product that we use, but more importantly, sometimes is just the metrics, creating those key metrics and understanding those metrics. If there's any questions, we're happy to take those at any time. Our information is there, and you can share those with us. And with that, I would like to thank you all, and hope you enjoy the rest of the event.